It's Final Friday.
Morgan, I asked you to tell me about someone you don't know but want to be friends with, and you said Madeleine Pendleton. She's on TikTok at Madeleine_Pendleton, Pendleton. I watched a few of her videos, and I'm very into this one right away. So explain what Madeleine does and why you want to be friends with her.
Yeah, so Madeleine is a fashion designer who lives in LA. I found her on TikTok, and she's kind of just been described on TikTok as everyone's cool aunt or cool older sister because she's, a little older than the stereotypical TikTok user. She's 34, but she's so cool. She's super punk. She is really artsy. She's hella socialist and down with the man, but also being hey, but also I have to make a living wage too. So I'm also, stuck in this capitalist, machine like the rest of us, but here are the ways I do it ethically. I just think she's really cool. She owns a clothing brand that I think is just pretty sick. I just think she's cool because she's, she's in her 30s, but she doesn't have that mentality of oh, you need to settle down. You need to get your shit together. Although she does seem like she has her shit together. She's not oh, you don't have to confine to corporate culture and have a natural hair color and not do crazy makeup. And I just like that her whole thing is kind of teaching young people that yeah, you can still be really artsy and super punk well into your 30s. There's no pressure to do the traditional nuclear family thing.
Yeah. It seems so, as you said, she has this amazing punk hairstyle. I wrote down in my notes, Harley Quinn adjacent hair, tons of jewelry, very intense eye contact. And yet it seems like a lot of the videos that she's posting, she's giving advice to maybe teens and 20-somethings, kind of people who are really figuring things out, and just giving really rock-solid advice on adulting, on relationships, on, as you say, on making a living in the most ethical way you can. Was there a specific, a specific thing that you remember watching of hers that really got you into, that got you hooked? Do you remember how, what specifically she was talking about when you first discovered her channel?
I'm not gonna lie, I fully learned how to budget from her. She had a whole video series about being young and living in a major city and struggling to save money. And I'm in my mid-20s living in a major city. And her whole thing was hey, I think a lot of budgeting tips are super outdated. Avoiding coffee, or not buying coffee out, avoiding your avocado toast, not having Netflix, those are
right.
A lot of budgeting things like that are unrealistic. So here are ways to budget instead. And it was all stuff splitting your paycheck into multiple accounts and only having one debit card linked to one account for your spending money. And I was that's so smart. The budgeting tips that a lot of boomers would have just don't work in today's world. They're
either outdated or super judgy.
Exactly. And it's almost a lot of it has a mentality of oh, if you don't make a certain amount of money, you don't deserve a quality of life, or you don't deserve a certain living standard. And I really liked that her approach was no, of course you deserve that living standard. Here are ways to work around it, or here are ways to achieve it while still not having a super high income. And I just like that a lot of her videos don't come off as condescending, even though she's usually talking to a much younger audience.
Yeah, you described her as what? As TikTok's aunt? Or what was how do you describe her?
She's kind of TikTok's cool aunt, TikTok's cool older sister, not quite a parental figure, but, she's still sort of a figure of authority and advice and good mentorship. That kind of thing. Yeah.
I think what we're not saying is she's very funny. She's got a really strong personality, really good sense of humor. And I think the aunt or cool older sister is a great description because she's kind of she has the authority of here's how it really is. And then she's and I'm not going to jerk you around. I'm not going to talk down to you. It's very much I have more authority or credibility on this topic than you do, but you should still listen to me. I'm still going to talk to you, in a real way and in a funny way.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, when you're mentally ill and you make friends with other mentally ill people, at first you're sick. We're all mentally ill. But then eventually you're oh, fuck, we're all mentally ill. And the reality is sometimes you're not going to be able to be there for your friends in the way you wish you could because you're fucking mentally ill too. And they're not going to know that unless you communicate boundaries. But the good news is, in my experience, other mentally ill people are really great at understanding and respecting boundaries, especially if they've been heavily therapized. Oh my God, they're going to get it. And if they haven't, they're going to be empathetic probably at least.
I also really like that, she talks about her, late teens and like 20s as not as like, I think a lot of other, I guess, responsible, creators do, where they're like, well, I did this and that's why I can live this way. Or like, I didn't have a social life in my 20s and that's how I owned a house. Where she's kind of like, hey, here are all the ways I fucked up and you can do that too. And here's how I fixed it, or you can avoid it, And I really like that approach.
But yeah, so if you were like, you had a one-on-one audience with her, you could ask her for advice on something. Well, what would be the thing that you would want to like, as a person probably in her target audience or somewhere in there, like what would you want advice from her about?
I'm going to be honest. I want to know how she dyes her hair so often without completely nuking it. I'm sure I could ask her, I'm sure she has so much knowledge and life experience about like owning a business and like designing clothes and all that, or even just like she's lived in LA for a really long time. And I moved here 4 years ago. So I'm kind of in a place where I'm finally settled in, but like, I still want to know like what's up with the city. I'm sure she has a lot of advice on that, but I mean, I kind of dyed my hair all through college. I got back into it over the pandemic and started dyeing my hair all over again. And now I'm kind of at a point where it's like, okay, it's been like 2 years of constantly bleaching and dyeing my hair at home, and I should probably give it a break. But how is Madeleine doing it?
Yeah, she changes it like all the time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I just want to know how she's not balding,
Yeah.
Because I definitely had that. Well, I've definitely had like points during the pandemic where I was like dyeing and bleaching my hair pretty much twice a month and was like, okay, my hair's falling out. This is bad.
Well, that was Madeleine Pendleton, who's on TikTok at Madeleine_Pendleton.